I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the laptop like it had just insulted me. The wedding spreadsheet was wide open, every line item under my name. Venue deposit, catering, flowers, her dress fittings, some custom neon sign that spelled, "Forever starts now." The total? Just over 58 grand. All mine. Amber didn't put a dime in. She was upstairs curling her hair for some brunch thing. I had just finished transferring another 2 grand to the florist when I heard her heels clicking toward me. "Hey babe," she said, breezing in with her phone in one hand and that fake-ass cheerful tone she used when she wanted something. I added a few more people to the guest list. Don't freak. I didn't say anything right away, just looked at her, then back at the screen. She dropped into the chair across from me like nothing was wrong. So, my cousin Shelby and her boyfriend, and then I figured, why not invite Steve? He's still close with my dad. Oh, and Kyle too. He just moved back to town. I blinked. Steve, your ex-husband? Yeah, and Kyle. He was my boyfriend right before you. Don't make it weird. Before we go on, quick note. Before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. I pushed the laptop away. You invited 2 guys you used to sleep with to our wedding. Amber rolled her eyes. It's not like that. You're being so insecure right now. I sat back in my chair, letting her words sit there like garbage rotting in the air. Insecure. That's what she called it. Not disrespected. Not blindsided. Insecure. Like I was some jealous little boy instead of the guy footing the bill for a party where her exes got VIP access. She stood and walked to the fridge, acting like she hadn't just spit in my face. It's not a big deal. Grow up. My jaw tightened. She didn't see it. She never saw anything. I looked down at the receipts again. Everyone had my name on it. Not hers. Not ours. Mine. Something in me cracked. Not loud, not messy. Quiet. Sharp. Real. I shut the laptop, stood up, and walked past her without a word. Amber was still in the kitchen when her mom walked in like she owned the place. Diane had a key. I never gave her one. She had that tight smile on her face, the one that said she already decided I was the problem before she even opened her mouth. So, Diane said, scanning the room like she was checking for dust, Amber told me you got a little upset over the guest list. I didn't look at her, just opened the laptop again and scrolled through the spreadsheet. Oh, honey, you've got to loosen up, she said, dropping her purse on the counter like it was her damn house. It's a party, not a courtroom. I kept my eyes on the screen. Amber leaned against the fridge, scrolling her phone like none of this involved her. I just think it's funny, Diane went on, voice dripping with condescension. How quiet you always are, like you're allergic to having opinions. She laughed, glancing at Amber. Maybe that's why you don't understand how weddings work. I clenched my jaw, typing numbers into a new column. I was tracking the vendor deposits now. Every dollar, every transaction. For myself, not them. Amber giggled at something on her phone and held it out to Diane. Look at this meme Shelby sent me. It's totally Jake. Diane leaned over, laughed, and said, Oh God. Yes, that's him. Poor guy doesn't even know he's already married, to this budget. They laughed like I wasn't standing right there, like I was just some intern they'd hired to pay for everything. I stood up and grabbed a glass from the cabinet. Didn't say a word. I could feel Diane's eyes on my back. I mean, Jake, sweetheart, she said, all syrup and spite. If you wanted a quiet wedding with no history, you should have picked someone boring. Amber didn't even flinch, didn't defend me, just smiled like her mom had cracked some brilliant joke. That's when it hit me. Not like a big dramatic explosion, but slow and cold, like water leaking through a crack in the wall. I wasn't marrying into a family. I was buying my way into a show they were running, and I didn't even have a speaking role. Diane poured herself coffee from my machine and said, Anyway, we're getting close. Just 2 weeks left. Hope you're not getting cold feet. Amber laughed again. Oh, he wouldn't dare. He's too polite. They both turned to look at me, smiling like I was some joke they shared. I stared at the spreadsheet, then clicked open a new tab. Email. Started forwarding every receipt to myself, venue, caterer, rental company. I made a new folder, wedding ledger. Diane was still talking, but I stopped hearing her. I was already pulling bank statements, cross-checking deposits, writing down which payments were made from which card. Amber finally looked up. "What are you doing?" "Organizing," I said flatly. "Making sure everything's accounted for." She rolled her eyes and turned back to her phone. They didn't notice anything had shifted. They didn't care. I went back to the numbers, my fingers steady now. Later that night, I shut the door to the guest room and locked it. Not because I was scared. I just didn't want interruptions. The desk in the corner was covered in receipts, notebooks, and my laptop. Everything I'd been quietly collecting for the past few days. I sat down and opened the drawer, pulled out the black notebook I hadn't touched in years, and flipped to a fresh page. At the top, I wrote one word in capital letters: track. Underneath, I started listing every expense. Cake tasting, paid. DJ deposit, paid. Bridesmaid spa day, yes, even that, paid. All of it from my account. My cards. I paused, tapping the pen against the table. My mind drifted. Back to last month, when Amber had laughed at me in front of her friends because I didn't want to go to a loud club for her bachelorette pre-party. "Jake doesn't do crowds," she said, smirking. "He's like an old man trapped in a 33-year-old body." Everyone laughed, even her sister. Back then, I smiled and brushed it off. Thought, screw it, it's just teasing. But it wasn't just that. It was every time she asked me to stay in the car instead of coming inside when we visited her family. It was the way Diane would say, "Jake's just shy," like I was a pet, not a grown man. It was the way they acted like I didn't exist unless I was paying for something. I flipped to a new page and titled it, Comments. Line by line, I wrote them down. Every dig, every joke, every time Amber made me feel like less than a man for not being loud or flashy or confrontational. I could feel something shifting. Not rage, not sadness, just cold focus. I'd been quiet for too long, thinking that being agreeable meant being strong. That if I kept things peaceful, eventually I'd earn respect. What a joke. I opened my email and started forwarding more receipts. Anything I had in digital form went into a folder I renamed Personal Archive. I took pictures of the handwritten invoices, labeled them with dates, then backed them up to the cloud. Twice. Nothing dramatic. No slamming doors. No dramatic speeches. Just facts. Just proof. The wedding wasn't a celebration anymore. It was a transaction. And I was the only one paying for it. Financially, emotionally, mentally. I opened another page and titled it, Ignored Concerns. Asked Amber to reconsider the guest list. Asked Diane not to speak to me like I was a child. Asked to delay the honeymoon to save money. Told Amber I felt uncomfortable about her ex being invited. Every time I was either laughed off or flat out ignored. I looked at the notebook. Black cover, plain. Used to be where I scribbled ideas for side projects. Now it felt more like evidence. I wasn't building a case to confront them. I didn't need a scene. I just needed clarity. If I was going to make a move, I wanted it clean. I pulled out my credit card statements, grabbed a highlighter, and started marking the charges related to the wedding. Bright yellow. A visual punch. I wanted to see it all. By the time I finished, the notebook had 4 full pages, costs, comments, red flags, and my own notes in the margins. I leaned back in the chair, arms crossed, staring at it. No one had noticed what I was doing. Not Amber. Not Diane. They thought I was just sitting in the corner, being the quiet one. Let them keep thinking that. I grabbed my phone, opened the calculator, and started adding every charge. I was still doing the math in my head the next morning when Amber barged into the living room, holding up her phone like it was some golden ticket. "Okay," she said, grinning like a kid with a secret. "So I found this new option for the after-party. It's rooftop, downtown, super aesthetic, has that exposed brick look you like. But we'll need to add another $500 for the bar package." She didn't wait for me to answer. She just flopped onto the couch beside me and opened her laptop, still in her pajamas. Her hair was tied up. No makeup, just pure chaos and caffeine. I think it'll be perfect, she went on, clicking through tabs. The dress, the location, the guests, all my people in one place. I didn't say anything, just watched her scroll like the world was hers and I was just tagging along for the ride. Then I saw it, her phone lit up on the coffee table. A text popped through. Steve, can't wait to see you again. You still doing that thing with your hair I like? She didn't even flinch, just smiled to herself and picked up the phone. I leaned forward slowly. You still talk to him like that? Amber blinked at me, like I'd asked if it was raining outside. It's not a big deal, he jokes. You sent him the guest list. Of course I did. He's invited. My mouth was dry. You told him what you're wearing? She gave a little shrug. We're adults. Grow up. I sat back, staring at her. That line again. Grow up. Like I was the one playing games. She scrolled past the message and held up her screen. Anyway, what do you think? This dress or the off-shoulder one? I glanced at it. It's nice. That's it? She laughed. Come on. You're being weird today. I didn't respond, just kept my eyes on the floor while she turned her attention back to the screen. She wasn't listening. She never was. Amber giggled, then leaned back against the cushion. God, it's gonna be so wild. All my exes under one roof. I can't wait to see how they react when they see me walk down the aisle. I turned toward her slowly. Why does that matter? She looked over at me like I just ruined her punchline. Jake, seriously, it's just fun. You're taking this too personally. Too personally. I felt the air shift in my chest, like something I'd been holding in just unlatched. Not loud, not dramatic, just final. There was no partnership here, no real respect. I was the checkbook, the ride, the fallback. I was the guy she knew wouldn't cause a scene. And she was right. That's exactly what I'd been. Until now. She kept talking, something about seating charts and custom cocktails, but I was already tuning her out. I was done standing in her blind spot. No yelling. No fight. She wouldn't even notice the change in me. I stood up and walked out of the room. I went to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and sat at the table. Amber was in the living room with her laptop propped open. Video call already in full swing. Her voice got louder when she was showing off. She stretched her legs across the ottoman and started bragging about the wedding. Oh my God, wait till you see my dress, she said. Total main character energy. Her friend Melissa chimed in. Ugh. I can't believe Steve is coming. That's gonna be so awkward for Jake. Laughter. Not even subtle. Amber didn't defend me, just grinned and said, Jake's used to awkward. He thrives in it. He's like the silent tree in the background of every photo. They lost it. One of them, Stacy, I think, added, he better not talk during the vows. That might ruin the aesthetic. I sat there, motionless, holding my glass like it weighed 100 pounds. Every word came through clear as glass. Amber didn't push back. She didn't say, hey, that's my fiancé. No, she leaned into it. I told him, she said between laughs. He's basically the emotional support wallet. Just hold the card and smile. They howled. That one hit harder than the rest. Not because it was new, because it was true. I didn't flinch, didn't breathe heavy, just stared at the tabletop like it might split open. She glanced over once, saw me sitting there, gave a small wave like nothing was wrong, then turned back to the screen. I stood up, slow and quiet, left the water untouched. Back in the guest room, I locked the door again. I sat down and opened the notebook. New page. Phase 2, exit. I wasn't angry. Not anymore. Anger takes energy, and I'd already burned through all of it. This was clarity. Cold, controlled, calm. First step, financials. I pulled my laptop closer and started listing the vendors with cancellation deadlines. I sorted them by refund potential venue, catering, photography, flowers. I had about 5 days left on most of them. Second step, accounts. I logged into every joint thing Amber had connected to, apps, wedding registries, shared calendars, and took screenshots. I changed the passwords where I could. Not out of pettiness, but protection. Third step, housing. Lease was in my name. Utilities too. I marked that down. If things blew up, she'd be the one scrambling. I flipped back to earlier pages, cross-checking what I'd already tracked. Every expense had a source now. Bank, card, vendor ID, date, notes. I wasn't documenting anymore. I was preparing. The only thing I hadn't figured out was the exact day. But I was close. I got up and pulled the duffel bag from the closet. Nothing suspicious. Just checked the zippers, made sure it still held together. Left it on the floor, unzipped. I grabbed a pen and wrote 2 words at the bottom of the page. Soon. Quiet. The next morning, Amber was already yelling from the hallway before I got out of bed. Babe, we're doing the final walkthrough today. Don't forget. Diane's picking me up in 10. I didn't answer. She popped her head into the guest room, my room now. You're coming, right? I didn't look up from my laptop. You don't need me there. She gave me a fake pout. Jake, don't do this weird vibe thing. We're almost done. Just push through. I stayed silent. She sighed, already walking away. Fine. Be boring. Again. I listened to her heels clicking around the apartment. Makeup bag slapping the bathroom counter. Spray can. Hair dryer. Her voice echoing through the hallway like we were still playing house. A minute later, I heard Diane's voice from the front door. He's not coming? What a shock. Amber laughed. He's in one of his moods again. Then the door shut. I waited 10 full seconds, then opened a blank document. Final total, $61,274.48. That's how much I'd spent on this wedding. I stared at the number, let it sit there and burn through my chest. No one else had paid. Not Amber. Not Diane. Not her dad who promised he'd pitch in closer to the date. They all let me carry the load while they made the party theirs. I pulled up the spreadsheet I'd been building for weeks. 1 tab for vendors. 1 for deposits. 1 for deadlines. It was all ready. I clicked the first line. Venue. Email. Requesting cancellation and refund of remaining balance. Reservation under Jake Reynolds. Status. Sent. Next. Florist. Sent. Catering. Sent. Hotel block. Sent. Custom signage. DJ. Photographer. One by one, I backed out of every agreement I'd signed. If it had my name on it, it got pulled. Amber texted around the time I hit the hotel reservation. Amber, hey, they're asking about the lighting change. Did you ever approve the dimmer switch thing? I didn't answer. 5 minutes later. Amber, Jake, are you seriously not gonna respond today? Still nothing. Then Diane. Diane, you need to get your act together. This isn't about you. I blocked her number. The cancellations kept rolling. Each confirmation email felt like a cinder block being lifted off my chest. I'd been quiet long enough. The last thing I canceled was the limo service. It wasn't even for me. It was for her and Diane. I clicked cancel reservation. No hesitation. I opened my notes again and scrolled to the bottom of the page. 1 box left. Leave. I didn't check it yet, but I would. I woke up before the sun. Amber was still asleep in our bed, snoring softly under a pile of white throw blankets she'd ordered for the aesthetic. Her phone buzzed once on the nightstand. Probably one of her bridesmaids confirming glam team arrival times. I didn't check it, didn't touch her. Just stood there for a second, staring at the room like it belonged to someone else. My duffel bag was already packed and waiting by the door. I didn't bother making coffee. Just grabbed my wallet, passport, keys, and left. Quiet. Clean. By the time I hit the freeway, the sky had started to lighten. The streets were empty. Just that hum of early morning city traffic. The sound of a world waking up. It was the calmest I'd felt in months. No fake smiles. No passive-aggressive jabs from Diane. No, can you Venmo this vendor real quick? From Amber. Just me and the road. I pulled into long-term parking at Newark, grabbed my bag, and walked toward the terminal like I had all the time in the world. The ticket had been booked months ago. Amber thought it was for our honeymoon in Turks and Caicos. Now it was just for me. I got through TSA with nothing but a nod, No holdups, no questions. I moved like a man on a mission, not like someone running. At the gate, I sat down and looked out at the tarmac. Planes lined up, ground crews doing their thing. No drama, just people doing what needed to be done. I felt the same way. Somewhere across the city, Amber would be waking up to the smell of hairspray and champagne, expecting a limo that wasn't coming. My phone vibrated. Her name lit up the screen. I ignored it. A minute later, another call. Then texts. Amber. Where are you? Amber. Jake. What is going on? Amber. Why isn't the limo here? I turned off notifications. A guy on the speaker called my boarding group. I stood up, grabbed my bag, and walked onto the jet bridge. The flight attendant scanned my pass and smiled. Honeymoon. Something like that, I said. I took my window seat and leaned back. Let it all roll off me. Amber was probably halfway into her makeup routine by now. Diane screaming at hotel staff. Guests showing up to a venue with locked doors and no catering. I pictured her phone lighting up with messages from confused friends. Her bridesmaids freaking out. Steve and Kyle standing around in awkward silence. I didn't feel bad. This wasn't revenge. This was the price of treating someone like they don't matter. Out the window, the plane started to roll. I watched the wing flex as we lined up for takeoff. Another text came through. One last buzz before airplane mode. Amber, you better not be doing something stupid. I switched the phone off without reading the rest. The wheels lifted from the ground. The plane landed just before noon. I stepped off into heat and salt air. No screaming vendors, no floral archways, no speeches. Just wind, sunlight, and silence. I checked into the resort under my name. 1 King Suite, Ocean View. Paid in full weeks ago. The front desk clerk handed me a cold towel and a glass of something citrusy. Welcome, Mr. Reynolds. Happy honeymoon? Something like that, I said. I dropped my bag on the couch, opened the balcony door, and let the breeze hit me straight in the chest. Felt like waking up after years underwater. I wasn't even done unpacking when my phone lit up again. Notifications stacked up like bricks. Amber had gone live. Her face filled the screen, red and blotchy, eyeliner running, voice cracking as she begged people to respect her privacy during this extremely painful and shocking betrayal. I watched for maybe 10 seconds before turning off the sound. The comments were already rolling in. Girl, you invited your exes. Wait. Wasn't it his money? This don't add up. He dodged a bullet. A new wave of posts came in from guests, screenshots of texts, vendor emails, people trying to get answers. One of Amber's bridesmaids had leaked the group chat. The messages were brutal. They called me furniture, Silent Jake, Wallet Man. Someone posted a clip from the rehearsal dinner where Diane joked about how I'd finally found a purpose. Laughter in the background. Amber smiling wide. Sarah messaged me first. Sarah, just saw everything. I had no idea. I'm so sorry. Then Alex. Alex. Man, I didn't get it before. I do now. You were right to walk. I didn't reply to either of them. They weren't bad people, but they'd watched it happen in real time and said nothing. Amber tried calling again. 3 times. Left voicemails. The last one was shaky, desperate. Jake, if you would just, God. I don't even know what you want from me. Just talk to me. I didn't think you'd actually walk away. That was the problem. She never thought I'd do it. She thought I'd always be there, folding into the background, making everything easier. I pulled the phone away from my ear, deleted the message, and tossed the phone on the nightstand. Back out on the balcony, the ocean didn't care. The sun didn't care. For the first time, I didn't either. Not about her. Not about what people thought. Not even about the money. I'd paid the price for peace and finally bought some. I ordered room service. Steak, fries, a cold beer, and ate on the balcony with my feet up and my chest open. The meltdown back home wasn't my fire to put out. I was done burning for people who wouldn't even light a match for me. I didn't go back home after the trip. Didn't check in. Didn't explain. Just forwarded the apartment lease to the landlord with my name off it and my forwarding address set to a P.O. box. I moved to Charlotte. Found a small place, 1 bedroom, clean light, no shared walls. Nobody asking for anything. Just quiet. I picked up more contract work, stayed off social media, didn't say a word to anyone from that side of my life. Sarah reached out once more. I left it on read. Amber posted a healing era photo dump in September. Beach selfies, yoga poses, captions about betrayal and growth. Didn't matter. Her comment section was still locked down. I didn't need revenge. I had peace. I started running again. Hit the gym. Cleaned up my diet. Nothing extreme, just consistent. My hands stopped shaking in the morning. I slept straight through the night. That never happened before. One Saturday, I matched with someone on a dating app. Her name was Rachel. Funny, steady, smart. We grabbed coffee, no pressure. She asked what I was looking for. I said, honesty, space to breathe. Nothing performative. She smiled and said, same. That's it. No fireworks. Just easy. I wasn't in a rush to call it anything. I was taking my time now. For once, time felt like mine. One afternoon, I walked downtown after work, grabbed a sandwich from a corner shop, and just sat on a bench. People passed by, laughing, arguing, living. Nobody looked at me like a wallet. Nobody looked through me like I was furniture. I was just a guy on a bench, breathing air he didn't have to beg for. For the first time in my life, I felt like I wasn't under anyone's thumb. And I knew right then I wasn't invisible. I was never invisible. They just never looked. But I see myself now, and that's enough. I stood up and kept walking.